has been what feels like a little bit too long since we've been back here on the OOR broadcast. Bonjour, everybody. Welcome to France, Le Castellet. It is round 5 of the Simrigs Sprint Series. I want to welcome everybody to the broadcast. As always, my name is Nick Mo, and I'm going to be here to give you some pretty solid action from North American Sprint. Unfortunately, did miss EU's race earlier today. Somebody in the world near my residence decided to 1v1 an electrical pole. They lost. So to say pole position did not go to that guy is a bit of an understatement. Thankfully, the driver was okay. Just a little bit of power being knocked out. Came back on, well into the EU races. But I'll make sure to check in on that. Someone gave me a link for the replay file. I appreciate that person, of course. And, well, let's go over that when it comes next time to do this. But hopefully everybody is doing well. Like I said, it has been a while since I've been here. I'm a little bit rusty if you haven't been able to tell. But that is that. We are here in qualifying. Things have been a little bit chaotic. You may have noticed that the start screen was a little bit different than it normally is. For those that might not be aware, Mullick does suffer from cystic fibrosis, I believe is what it was called. My medical is not very good, but he has been dealing with that. So he has been in the hospital. Thankfully, has some extremely good care, so he is in very safe hands. But things have been a little bit slowed down here on the production side of things. When you look at those graphics at the start, that's Mullick. The overlay, the starting soon screen. Even in the top right corner, you can't see it. That usually tells you what split we're in. Well, that's all Mullick's doing. So with him out of action, unfortunately, it's a little bit bare bones here in the studio, but we make do with it. I was going to actually do everything myself, a little bit of Photoshop. Life got in the way. And like I said, you know, you come in just unprepared. But we're here, 30 drivers on the grid. And we've got a little bit of catching up to do, folks, since the last time I saw all of you. So, we're going over the results from last time around. We were at the Nürburgring. Very fun race, as always, in Germany. It was, of course, Hutchinson, continuing his reign of terror. This guy has been absolutely unstoppable this season. It's absolutely ridiculous what he's done. He has won every single race since the season began. He won the season opener, both of those races, made it 3 in a row, then 4 in a row, and I mean, this guy, 5 races, and I know you might say, well, what do you mean 5 races? We're on round 5. Well, we had that super sprint, those 2 races earlier on in the season. Won both of those, so he has just continued his reign of terror here in North America, and I was tipped off by a certain somebody on the grid. Apparently, Jaid Hutchinson races for Jean Alesi Esports, which is one of the top esports sim racing teams in the world. So if that's an indication as to just how good he is, well, it's really no surprise that he is just absolutely going to town on the North American drivers. But he is finally out and about, getting his laps in for qualifying. He just put in a 156.3, but was outside of the line. So that's not really where he wants to be, but of course, a few minutes left in qualifying, he'll be able to make up all that time rather quickly. So I would be surprised if he wasn't on pole. Honestly, I can't really recall the last time we didn't see him at the top. But looking at the rest of the results, it was Hutchinson, Clifford, and Loverink. 3 names we're just seeing at the top of North American Sprint every single time. I think there's been a couple of races where either Loverink or Clifford were not in the top 3, but for the most part, it's just those 3 guys, left, right, and center. In the silver category, Thompson, Page, and Zampati, all 3 of those guys really just getting their campaigns based on point difference. Could be seeing a collision course later on in the season, but of course we'll have to wait and see how that happens. In the Pro-Ams, it was Frizza, Brown, and Flores, and then down in amateur, Perez, Hernandez, Treister, and Good. Of course, some of these, or actually a lot of these guys showing up this week, of course, to try to continue that run of good luck and good fortune. Standing-wise, well, that's where things, depending on how you look at it, it's either getting A great dosage of business as usual, or a fresh breath of air, with point gaps being closed up. Hutchinson, of course, very much leading the championship and the overall and the pro category. 640 points. That is a 130-point bonus compared to what Loverink has at 510. Clifford at 414. That's only 96, so those guys are a bit closer. Loverink right now on pole position, 153.24. It appears as though Hutchinson has gone 9th fastest, almost a second off, but I would not be surprised to see him jump up the grid a little bit. But Hutchinson, for anybody that doesn't know, the maximum number of points you can get in one race weekend is 153. So the fact that Hutchinson is only 23 points off of having a perfect race gap to P2, and we're just about halfway through the season, I really don't want to say I'm surprised, but I'm starting to feel like I kind of am. And then down in the silver category, Thompson tops that charts, 288 points to his name. That gives him 53 points of breathing room to Paige, who has 235 points. That has actually gone up. It was 28 points last week, so there has been, my math is to be believed, 25 points. So not a huge margin, but enough to keep the Canadian at bay just a little bit longer. And then it's Zampati with 215, so very much within striking distance of P2. Down to Pro-Am, Flores leads it with 192 points, only 21 over Frizza, and from Frizza to Rodriguez, who's in P3 down there, 147 points, so 24 points between second and third. Frizza right now runs 25th overall with a 56.96 and having some problems getting out of the pits. Might be the ping there. It's causing some issues. And then for the amateurs, of course, it is Good, who is at 73. Giovanni has 56, and Mike has 40. So 17 points between first and second, and 16 second and third. So amateurs heating up a little bit. Looking at it last time, the gap from Good to Giovanni was 8. So that's gone up by 9. However, the gap from Giovanni to Mike was 22. It's gone down 6 points. If that trend continues, well, very easily, we could be seeing Mike overtake Giovanni in the championship, but that is going to be a job easier said than done because Giovanni sits 22nd overall, and it is Mike that sits in last. Has not put a lap in, but the rest of the drivers getting their laps in, very much so. It is still Skylar Loverink who sits atop the timing sheets with that 53.24. I'm having problems reading. Hutchinson's still in the pits, making some adjustments. I think this might be the first time in a long time we have not seen Hutchinson on pole. If someone could possibly verify, that would be great, because, again, I have not been able to think of a time where Hutchinson was not on pole position. Welcoming everybody into the chat, of course. Hellhounds, Riddle, and Hunter Page. Hello from the Dirty 20 community. Hello to you guys, and of course, hello to the greatest of them all, who I don't see on the roster, unfortunately. But Hunter Page in position 10 right now. The Canadian sits very close to losing it. Zampati out of the final corner. He's just about even with himself. Shouldn't be able to overtake Hunter Page for position 10. No, just misses out. 0.05 of a second. We're going to see who else is on a valid lap. Rodriguez here in the number 85 sits P4. If this works out in his favor, could he be taking third away from Carpenter? Across the line he goes. He does even better than that. He goes second. Leapfrogs Clifford. Says, thank you very much. That's a great lap, but mine's better. 0.8 of a second, and that immediately sets us up. Did not even have a chance to get through everybody else, and apparently Kevin Parody down in position 17. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time to do one of my favorite things for anybody that does know me, and that is going to be the grid walk. That'll set us up for this race. An hour on the clock, bright and sunny here in Le Castellet. Hopefully you guys are brushed up on your French. Mon français no bien. Hopefully everybody will understand. Hopefully if you don't, doesn't matter. But we get this grid ready. Like I said, it's going to be an hour on the clock. Drivers getting those last finishing touches on the setup. Skylar Lovrink will lead us into turn number 1, the number 52. Putting in one hell of a qualifying lap there. Rodriguez, we saw right at the end, sneak his way into the top 3 because that is what he wants to do. Clifford has to unfortunately take P3 from qualifying, and then it's Austin Carpenter, Braden Thompson that round out the top 5. Spencer Brown in P6 with Christian Andreasen right behind him, but Andreasen shares that 4th row with Ben Keogh, a very familiar name in the OOR scene. Jaid Hutchinson, a very uncharacteristic 9th place start, but an hour is plenty of time for the 270 or the 726 rather, to make his name known up at the top. Hunter Page just gets into the top 10. Zampati did miss out, we saw at the end. Kenneth Portis, the lone Honda on the grid, lines up number 12. Jose Flores and Eduardo Sanchez have each other company on the 7th row of this grid. Going to see how far those guys can go. They've had some pretty solid, successful races in the past, not only this season, but seasons beyond. Alan McIver, Brian Rasco, Kevin Parody, of course, and Larry Lanham. That's going to be 15th down to 18th. Darren Wicks starts us off in position number 20. The 377 has some work to do if he wants to make some pretty solid gains here this evening. Giovanni, just talking about him, does have the qualifying advantage over Chris Good, but it's only one position, 21 and 22 for the amateur class rivals. Hall there, 23rd, and Hernandez is going to be 24th. Teely joins in 25th position, and then it goes Frizza, Parkinson, Barnett, Edson Mike in 29th. Not going to do him any favors for his shot at the amateur class title. And Andrew Wilson rounds us out for the Purple Cobras down there in 30th position. Ladies and gentlemen, before we get started, of course, we're going to give a shout out to Simrigs for sponsoring Season 14 of the Sprint Series. We've had them here for quite a while now, and I've got to say they have been absolutely incredible to have a part of the OOR team out of Melbourne, Australia, one of the largest sim racing suppliers there in the Oceanic region. All of Australia, New Zealand, you guys are going to be covered. But if you're like myself and many of these drivers here in North America and even over in Europe, and you happen to live outside the borders, well, if you send them an email, they'd be more than happy to do some business with you. You know, this hobby's a great hobby, and if there's one thing we all unfortunately have to know about it is that, well, it's not cheap. But if you're an OR Patreon member, you guys are going to get 5% off your in-store purchases, so highly advise you take advantage of that. But again, thank you to Simrigs for sponsoring another season of the Sprint Series. Hope to keep them around more as, well, as the Sprint develops and matures far beyond what it has already been. But on track, Lovrink leads us away as the safety car. I did hear from the guys over in EU, they did have a VSC, excuse me, in the first lap. Maybe we see that here. Hopefully we don't. But 30 cars on the grid making their way down that backstretch. Paul Ricard, it seems to be a bit polarizing in the community. Some people absolutely love it. Some people like me can't stand it. 200 plus configurations, and I hate every single one of them. But hey, I'm not the one that makes the schedules. I just commentate over them. We'll see who has it in them to make that full 60-minute marathon. No mandatory stops. You can see that green bar there to the right side of the driver numbers. Normally, if we had a mandatory stop, it'd be orange with the number 1, but all green means you're good to go. So we are going to be seeing, for some, maybe, possibly, one whole stint on one set of tires, one load of fuel. But I would not be too surprised if we did happen to see someone come into the pit lane, maybe underestimating what they need. But we get towards the third sector here. We'll see what can happen exactly. Pretty solid lineup, though, in that the top 10, Lovrink, Rodriguez, Clifford, Carpenter, Thompson, Brown, Andreasen, Keogh, Hutchinson, Page. Talk about titans of the industry. But it really, I think the big question, the big ask is this man right here, Jaid Hutchinson, 726, Sean Lacey Esports, has won every single race this season. But is this the race that punts him off of that top step for the first time in North American Sprint? Ladies and gentlemen, we are around the final corner, up to the start-finish line. An hour on the clock, no mandatory pit stops. Lovrink on pole. Rodriguez somehow sneaking his way in there right at the final second. 2 Lamborghinis up there in the top 3, but we get across that start-finish line, and it's green, green, green here at Paul Ricard. It's going to be a great jump for everybody. 3 wide in the background, as it is the Honda of Portis having to go around the outside, almost into the pit lane. The cone's getting punted into turn number 1, but Skylar Lovrink makes out like a thief in the night. 3 wide still. You can see there's a touch there from the Honda onto Sanchez. That pushes the Porsche there wide. I believe that was Flores who does rejoin and keeps the 3 wide going somehow. Hunter Page, what has happened? We've got a Porsche off. We've got a Lamborghini off. That was Flores, and I believe that was MacGyver as well. There's more chaos in the background as Kevin Parody gets spun around, collects 3, 4, 5 cars almost at the start. Does that draw out the virtual safety car? I don't know if it has. It's still going to be single file racing though as we head down the front or the back straight here. It doesn't seem like it. Pulling up the track map, no, everybody has been allowed to continue on. So the chaos already unfolding. Rodriguez from 2nd to 3rd. Clifford retakes his rightful spot. There's Carpenter behind. And this spot here is where I think we're going to be seeing a lot of the overtakes because of just how long this back straight is. Here's Ben Keogh side by side as we head towards the end there. There was Andreasen. It's going to be very tricky getting through this in one piece. There was Spencer Brown. Keogh gets spun around. That just massive runoff area is able to, well, stick out of any walls. Has fallen from 7th down to 17th and gains a couple more positions. Everybody's having problems. I believe that was, yeah, that was Flores and Page making contact. We haven't even gotten through the first lap, and I can't even tell you how much contact we've seen from all these drivers. Look at Flores' Porsche. That thing has seen better days. This is certainly not the evening he wanted to have. His, well, I mean, to round out the day, let's be honest. There's the BMW there of the 66. I'm not certain who that is. Hunter Page throwing it down the inside, though. Does get around the Purple Cobra's Lamborghini onto the front straight. It's still side by side. It actually gets a pretty poor exit there. And that will be Andrew Wilson who takes advantage. It was Barnett who was the 66 that was passed. Back into turn number 1 we go. The Canadian's going to be a little bit later on the brakes, chucking it down the inside. Is the space there? No, has to back out. That battle sticks around a little longer. Everybody else behind is getting things sorted, and this is where we want to be. You can see just how bunched up the leaders are. Hutchinson already into 5th position because of those errors. And look at him already. He's already on the back there of Carpenter. He has just wasted absolutely no time. Now, here's the thing. The Porsche, not really known for its top end. Compared to the rest of the cars, the McLaren especially will sit in the slipstream for as long as he dares. He's going to pull out. And the speed, he gets close and close, but it almost feels like he can't do much of anything. These guys reaching very much the upper limit of what the car is capable of. And more side by side there. Thompson and Zampati. It is going to be the McLaren that comes out on top, and Hutchinson does gain another position. Andreasen throwing it on the inside bit of tarmac there. Brown can't retaliate, has to back up. And this little 4-pack between Brown, Portis, and Rasco could make things very interesting later on. And just behind, that is, if I'm not mistaken, that is Larry Lanham in the 502. I'm going to call that the Guy Fieri livery with the flames. Gotta love it. Right behind there is Eduardo Sanchez, who has a very late look on the inside, but thinks better of it. You're only on lap 2, gentlemen. There is no reason to going for desperate moves this early on. Gonna go back in the pack a little bit. It's Hunter Page in P20. There's Chris Frizza. He has had a pretty unfortunate start. Darren Wicks does lead ahead of him. Barnett starting to come under fire for a minute. I think Hernandez wanted to pull out of the slipstream with an advantage, but it just wasn't close enough to really take effect. And behind that, that is Rodriguez. But Giovanni for the amateurs in 16th, this is going to be great for him because that is such a massive advantage. That could easily put him in the lead if Chris Good somehow, some way does not find, well, a bit of speed to get around. It's only about a second, but that can feel like a lifetime for some drivers. But he does have a pretty healthy gap to Keshawn Hall behind, who will be giving a bit of a slipstream now. Darren Wicks, you're giving the slipstream behind Chris Frizza. After his start, you can see that Ferrari, I wouldn't even say it's inching, it's just galloping up and alongside and just pulling away, almost like Darren Wicks is standing still. So before we even get to the end of the back straight, before we hit the brakes at the 100 board, he's already gone, and Frizza running it out wide. But I gotta say, track limits here at Paul Ricard, very, very liberal with them. You can see all sorts of interesting lines, but at the same time, it's, in my eyes, in my experience, very easy to actually pick up a drive-through for getting too many track cuts. Even if you didn't mean it, even if you end up losing time, it has happened. So drivers have to be careful with that. But after a very exciting start of the race, things are settling down across the field, but still some battles firing up. Andreasen with a BMW in his sights, and then you can see Portis with Rasco behind, Lanham and Sanchez. If these lap times are working more up, as in starting from Sanchez and getting slower as you go up the grid, we could be seeing a huge pack form. The battle for position 7 between 6 drivers, that would definitely be something I would love to see later on in the broadcast if the drivers are able to make it happen. I haven't checked the script in a long while. I'm certain, though, it's in there. But Lovrink leads this race by just about 1.3 seconds. Jonathan Clifford's in second, and Hutchinson, like a bloodhound on the scent trail, has gone from 9th to 3rd in just a couple of laps. Doesn't have fastest lap, though. That belongs to Lovrink. It's a 54.38, although Hutchinson just put in his best of a 54.50. So only 12 hundredths of a second behind. Andreasen getting pushed very far to the inside. Spencer Brown slowly drifting across to try to cover it off, and was able to do so. Andreasen, you saw him lift a fair bit, actually. Was a long way off. And making, well, his own lines. As he carries through that long... For some, it's a single apex. For some, it's a double apex right-hander. And I think Rasco, for just a moment, had a shot, but just didn't have enough of the car alongside to really make a move. But we'll be seeing how much he gets. Oh, he's going to go for a little bit of a crisscross, try to get a straighter exit. Almost spins it out there on the exit of the corner. And that is going to lose him so much time. You can see how far back he is. What was just mere feet has turned into, well, what feels like miles. Hutchinson picking up fastest lap, a 54.35. Only 300ths faster than Lovrink, but closing in fast. His lap was 0.6 faster than Clifford. So the 999 is going to be, well, fish food for this man here. Even if it's, well, not going to be done in some stunning last-second dive to the inside. It is absolutely going to be done on pace. But time will have to tell us the extent of that. There goes Andrew Wilson on the inside of the Audi of Giovanni. That spot is given up, but the 714... I don't think is going to give up that easily in the slipstream. Maybe it's all part of the plan. You can see Wilson sitting on the right side of the track, and it's Giovanni that pulls out, but immediately has to slot back in behind the Audi. Just not there in terms of speed. But Andrew Wilson now with a bit of a problem. You can see the Audi there. Who's going to be brave as they go side by side somehow through the right-hander. Job well done. Wilson sets himself up on the inside to hold station. But Giovanni has some room on the inside, but not close enough for a move. There's Good behind. If Good can get around, this is going to do a lot of favors for his championship. Keep in mind, he only has a 17-point lead over that 714. We do have a pit stop here. Rodriguez is in. I'm wondering if he maybe had a fueling error, maybe damage. I think it was fuel. He wasn't in there for very long, I don't think. Because he is sitting 15th. Keshawn Hall's going to pick up a position. Where does Rodriguez come out? Rodriguez, I don't think, comes out at all. I think he's retired the car. Not certain what that's all about. So the first retirement of the evening goes to Rodriguez. Or actually, it might have been the second one. We may have lost someone else in the meantime. Only reading 29 of the original 30. Oh, and I think we just saw a drift there from Lanham. Not certain, though, but he has opened up a gap. So we have some half-second gaps across the field. Tim Parkinson right now, he is going to be giving us front and center. There's Hernandez, or not Hernandez Tricer, excuse me. That is the numbered 42 Lamborghini. That's a blue flag situation. I believe the 42, that was Kevin Parody, surprisingly, being let through. Drivers, of course, we follow blue flag rules of, F1, got to get out of the way. Although some drivers will say, hey, I'm faster than you, is it cool if I go around? And they'll say yes. And right now, Kenneth Portis on the brink of losing position number 9 to Rasco. And by the time they get around the corner, that is done. But Portis, not one to give up easily. He has been one of North America's top drivers for a long time, is pretty much married to the Honda till death do them part. Has won seasons in it, has lost seasons in it. Of course, that 1.9 update brought it closer to the pack, and for some, it felt like, well, quite literally just nerfing the car to oblivion. But Portis right now in that top 10, so the car isn't all that bad, but certainly he would wish for the golden days back on his lap, but that is not going to happen because right now it is Loverank. It does sit atop the pile. You see one of the Porsches there. I believe that's Flores. Yes, it is. So he's had to play back marker already for the leader, and we'll have to do it for Clifford and for Hutchinson. Both of them, I think, closing in on Loverank. Yeah, Loverank did a 54.9, Clifford did a 54.8, and Hutchinson did a 54.4. So they are both getting quite close to that leading car, the leading Ferrari. I don't know if we'll be having a three-way battle for the lead. I certainly would love to see that, but, well, there's still a little ways off, though, of your leader. Keshawn Hall here, 15th. Andrew Wilson's behind, is not close enough. That gap almost a second between them. So not much of a slipstream being given there, maybe a little bit. Oh, it's half a second now, so it looks like he's gotten actually a run out of one of the corners. But yeah, half a second that far back. I mean, it's really not a lot. Brian Rasco gets a little bit loose and gives the position, unfortunately, back to Portis. Not the way he would have wanted it. He would have, well, rather just take it and hold on to it forever. Eduardo Sanchez now has been brought into the picture a little bit closer now. If you remember the start of the start of this lap, rather, the gap from Sanchez to Rasco was quite lengthy, but now it is very, very close between them. You can see the train of 3 McLarens lining up. Rasco, Sanchez, and Keogh crossing the line here. Sanchez just about half a second, though, from Rasco, and then about 6/10 behind. But man, Rasco is, despite losing it a little bit, hasn't phased him at all. I said, you know what, it's fine, it happens, I get it, it's no problem, it's no big deal. I'm not going to let that stop me. His last lap was a second slower than Portis, so definitely having some issues there. That I don't know. In my days, the McLaren has always been a bit of an issue on that back end. Seems to want to step out. It might be also due to the fact that I like to, I would say, almost physically abuse my throttle. I've gotten better, though, at being very ginger with it. But we check back in. Andrew Wilson, Keshawn Hall. So we head to that back straight. Hernandez in the pit lane here. So that's most likely going to put him another lap down in this race. But we still keep an eye. Giovanni and Good, that has been an extra position there for the Audi driver. So this could give him the lead in the amateur class championship by the end of the race. Jaid Hutchinson has gotten around the back marker and now sits right behind the 999 there of Clifford. Clifford is definitely going to be checking that rear view quite a lot. Hutchinson, you almost wonder if he's just taking a sip as he does this with how quick he's been every single race, even when he doesn't get full position, and he's, I think, usually like third. I don't think we've seen him lower than that. Doesn't matter how far back you put him, he can and will find his way back up to the top. And that's exactly what he's doing here, and he can see Loverink just up ahead, and there doesn't seem to be any back markers at all. So this is going to be a straight shot almost. The job should be done, I mean, by the end of the back straight. There's no reason it couldn't happen. Zampati and Carpenter as well, two drivers we have not really talked about so far this race. Zampati does lead ahead of the 883, slightly different lines. Straighter one there for Carpenter. Don't know if that's really going to give him a lot to work with towards the end. Hutchinson in the slipstream. You can see how much he's gaining as we get towards the end. Is he going to be able to get the move done under the banner into the braking zone? And Jonathan Clifford just forfeits his position. Doesn't want to hold Hutchinson up. You can see how much of the road Hutchinson's using. Everything he can. And that is why he is the top driver here in North American Sprint. And now it's just Loverink who sits a mere 3 or so seconds up the road. But for Hutchinson, that'll be no time at all. We'll see what it looks like as we get towards the start-finish line. Chris Good with Hunter Page behind, the number 6 on the inside at the end of it all. And Chris Good just has to back out. He can't fight it. Isn't going to take the risk. He says, you know what? I'll let him have it. I'm better off just keeping my race going. He will lose more points to Giovanni, but will it be enough for the Argentinian to take over the top spot of amateur? Or will that gap be 1 or maybe 2 points? Back here in 10th, Brian Rasco has not had the best luck of catching up with Portis. Keogh, though, has done just that. Throws it around the outside into turn number 1 and will have the inside for turn number 2. The 33 weaseling his way through. Ben Keogh using the slipstream slightly later on the brakes. Far more bravery. Has all the grip he could ever need. Gets the job done into the top 10. And now Sanchez could also be looking to have the same sort of opportunity on Rasco, as that gap is pretty much even across all 3 of these McLaren cars. And Kenneth Portis, while all these guys fight, that's going to give him a chance to pull away, which he'll be more than happy to have given to him. Because the more the guys fight behind, the more time they lose to him, and the more time he gets to build. But for right now, things have settled. Sanchez's last lap was a 56.9. Rasco's was a 56.2. So 7/10 is not going to be enough. Keogh's was a 55.57. A 56.05 though for Portis. That's very surprising. So Keogh may be looking to grab position number 9 in due time, unless Rasco gets a little bit racy and is able to catch back up, but he's really struggling to do that, especially with all the pressure that Sanchez is putting on him. Oh, Keogh, a little bit too much on the curb. That almost spun him out. He's going to try to cover off the inside. Oh, and they make contact. Ben Keogh, a little bit of Tokyo drift in both the McLarens. Going around the outside, split the offense. That was, of course, not what we wanted to happen, but we got to take a look at that again. That was incredible. So there's the touch. There's full lock for Ben Keogh. Sanchez goes down the inside. Rasco around the outside. And that was a little bit close. A little too close for comfort, I might add. We'll, of course, let the drivers figure out if it was intentional or accidental, but Keogh, at the very least, he can take a bow. That was an incredible save. It could have ended a lot worse had drivers been a bit closer than they were if the car had been a little bit more sideways. But that settles that. There goes Darren Wicks right around Edson Mike, like you just almost let him through. Oh, it's actually the Lexus that goes into the pit lane. So Darren Wicks grabs position 22, free of charge. Mike is moving extremely. He's out of fuel. He is he's 100% out of fuel. He has to be. There's no way. If we can see it on the HUD. I mean, he is only 17 kilometers. Yeah, he's definitely out of fuel. I don't think the pit lane is that slow. Or maybe he had fuel, but his pit box was so close to the start of pit lane that he spent that time to actually set up the pit stop, maybe make a couple of adjustments. Hopefully it wasn't the dreaded no fuel. Carpenter, oh, Zampati almost rear-ending him there and just dodged to the outside. That does give Braden Thompson a breath of life for position 5, but as quickly as it came, it went. Extremely close there for the 69. But he'll be right back on it. The lap was 6/10 slower, but that was for, well, evasive action. So we'll see what the true pace is like as the next lap comes in. The fastest lap for Zampati, though, was a 54.68. For Carpenter, though, it's a 56.92. So maybe he's faster than I think he is. Checking in with Hutchinson, a 54.78 compared to Lovering's 55.24. That gap's 2.5. That is probably the slowest I think we've ever seen a gap go down from Hutchinson to whoever is in the lead. Of course, the Ferrari is going to absolutely excel here on the back stretches of France, as it does, but it's going to be pretty much everything else where that Porsche shines. Ooh, Larry Lanham side by side. Alan MacGyver can't get anything out of it. Those flames, we all know how quick the flames can make you. You see some front end damage there as well for MacGyver. He was involved in that lap 1 carnage. Shouldn't be affecting his performance all too much. And Larry Lanham very inside line. And that does open up a little bit of a gap right now. Thiele's in the pit lane. Not certain what that's for. Hudson Mike is out of the pit, so he must have underfueled the car and gotten back out there. But Thiele, I'm not certain what that's all about. Could also be fuel. Maybe some of these guys running their quali setups. Of course, drivers will underfuel the car for quali and, you know, just shed off some of those pounds. Fuel does have an effect on the car's performance. There's a late lunge on the inside for MacGyver, but not much he can really do with it. Backs out. So definitely has the pace. Was very close, but just sort of timing it incorrectly. But as I was saying, you know, fuel does affect cars a lot. Of course, they do it in real life, and it's going to do it here in ACC. The lighter the fuel load, you're going to get just a couple of extra hundreds, maybe a tenth or two if you're really lucky overall. But what we'll see, depending on the race, if it's an hour like this with no pit stops, then, you You know, drivers will put in just enough, maybe a lap extra just to be safe. And of course, you have to account for the parade lap. Just to get them over the line. If it's a race with the mandatory stop, some drivers don't even bother. They just keep the fuel where it is. Some will underfill the car just to get a little bit extra speed and then add some fuel in at the pit stop. Of course, both of the actions of refueling and tire change happens at the same exact time. So it's not like you're losing any time out of those 30 base seconds that you get if you do go for a pit stop. But yeah, some drivers will split the fuel in half, get to the end. Maybe it has worked out. We have seen some drivers do that in races past and actually be able to get a position by the end. Of course, I mean, they're running on fumes by the time they get to the finish line. But if it works, it works. And Luffring's still at the top, and Zampotti's in the pit lane. So maybe another bit of fuel. I don't think this is a mandatory stop race, unless it has and the overlay is messed up, which can happen. As we know, ACC perfectly coded as always. But I don't think so, because I feel like if it was, we would have seen pretty much almost everybody coming into the pit lane. So yeah, I'm led to believe that this is strictly because of fueling errors. Of course, always important to check your fuel loads when you're doing races. I tend to have a quality setup and then I have a race setup, just so that way I don't get them mixed up. Change the preset, and then I always double check that I have the proper amount of fuel before I get to them. Me personally, I always put a couple extra liters in before I, you know, get out there, just so I can be 100% sure that I make it to the end, even though a certain app will tell me, hey, if you're running this pace, you should put this amount of fuel in your car, and I'm like, I'll just put a little bit more, because I do not trust myself. We check back in, position 16 for Giovanni. He is very much pulled away from good, down in 19th position. Hunter Page is behind, but how much is this actually going to be worth it as we head down the back straight with the slipstream? Well, I don't think the Lambo is going to be close at all, although this back straight just goes on and on and on and on and on, and you can see that Lamborghini getting closer, looks to the inside, but is not going to do anything with it. Giovanni running all the way out as much as he can. The exit there. Very easy to actually pick up too many track cut warnings and cop yourself a drive-through penalty. Larry Lanham still, MacGyver has just not let off the pressure. He's just been pouring it on. And Larry Lanham, very late on the brakes. Alan MacGyver goes down the inside, gets the drive on exit, and does get the move done. And starts to pull away. The cork in the bottle has been popped, and now he can really start stretching his legs and get this advantage. Even more so. There goes Andrew Wilson. I think not expecting Hall to break when he did. Oh, there's a slide. Alan MacGyver gets a little bit too overjoyed by his move. Almost spun out. We've got Giovanni in the pits. Zampotti's coming out right now. I'm starting to think that maybe this is a mandatory stop. I could be wrong. But I didn't see anything. They didn't put anything out, unfortunately. But of course, that's because the person who does these next round announcements, it's the official, well, it's the Octane Online Racing bot, which I'm fairly certain is conducted by Mullick. And right now, Keshawn Hall with the slipstream steps out side by side with the BMW, does have that spot, and is just going to go back ahead, maybe give a little bit of a slipstream back, maybe working unintentionally with Larry Lanham to pull away from Andrew Wilson. That McLaren, I think for a moment just had a bit of a slide, but caught and dealt with very quickly. But these four are keeping each other company. I don't know if this will really be a battle for 12th. At the very least, it'd be a battle for 13th. Larry Lanham will not let Hall get away with that, although the pace, unfortunately, is dictating otherwise. Andrew Wilson as well, having the speed under the McLaren. So we're going to see how he takes this final corner, especially having to get early on the brakes. Slightly different brake points for these guys, and it gets a little bit trickier when you actually have someone in front of you. Of course, never easy. But these four carry on. Portis still sitting in 8th. Sanchez, last lap was a 56.47 compared to a 56.38. So these two kind of back and forth a little bit. We see some laps more so than others, an advantage gained and then lost and then gained again and then back to being lost, but no opportunity yet for the 21. So backstretch, let's see. I don't think he's really that close. I mean, it looks very close, but that slipstream, well, it does sort of pile on top of itself at this range. You're lucky to, get such a run. I can't really think of any other track where you'd get this much time to sit in the slipstream other than Spa, which, hint, hint, will be the last race of the season. Alan MacGyver, though, losing position 12 from that same old slipstream. Cashot Hall in side by side as well. Lanham and Wilson, they're doing battle there. Down for position 15, side by side for both of them as we head through the right-hander. Still somehow side by side as we come out of it. Larry Lanham, Andrew Wilson keep the battle going on the inside. For the number 91, he does lose out on it, but gentlemen, the respect for each other through one of the fastest corners this season and to avoid contact is not easy by any stretch of the imagination. There's Andreasen in the pits, just about halfway through, a little bit more than halfway through this race. Loverank is very much in trouble. Hutchinson, starting 9th, is 2nd. And halfway through is already getting ready for the main course, or maybe the dessert, depending on how you look at it. It's going to be position number 1. I saw somebody in the chat earlier, it was Riddle, talking about sandbagging. Maybe, as Hutchinson's an idea, maybe he's been watching these back and hearing about all these pole positions and lights to flag finishes and decide, you know what, I'll give him something. And what that something is right now is a potential change for the lead. Loverank, try as he might, that 55.96 doesn't really hold a candle to the 55.28 of the man behind you. In the meantime, we've had a Barnett pit. But Loverank, even with the 7/10ths, I mean, Hutchinson only about a 10th.5 right now, and slightly later on the brakes. So it's this sort of first and third sector where I believe the Porsche does a little bit better than the Ferrari, but the front straight and the back straight is where the horse really gets to gallop along. And the slipstream being given over. We'll see if Hutchinson goes for a move into turn number 1. I don't think he's close enough. And if he is, he's going to pull up right at the last second. So for Loverank, still holding on to first position. But with Hutchinson, it's never a matter of if he's going to pass you, but when he's going to pass you. If by some weird stroke of luck you actually end up not being able to start somewhere. But Hutchinson throws it around the inside. That was pretty sick. And I think fighting back, Loverank does. There's a touch there. Hutchinson has to dip to the inside. Off the track goes Loverank as well. So Hutchinson saw the opportunity, compromised himself a little bit, was maybe banking on the exit being his best friend, but it was Loverank who stayed cool and was able to just nudge his way back into the lead. Side by side, out of the slipstream is Hutchinson, but he's going to be on the outside line. for the right-hander, both on the brakes, and he's a little bit later, side by side, still we go. Hutchinson almost making contact, and finally gets the job done. Jaid Hutchinson, 9th to 1st. Loverink wants back at it again, but does he have the pace? No, he doesn't, but still he tries. You can see how close he is. He can read pretty much every letter there on the back of the car. Not like there's a lot to really read, but you could feel like he would maybe even be able to pick the specks of dirt off. But Hutchinson has done exactly what he's known to do. And already, look at the exit. Loverink just cannot compete. And there it is, crossing the line. Half a second, Hutchinson leads here in Le Castellet. And despite being on a plateau and being a track that is notable for having very windy weather, it is very calm. Only 1 kilometer an hour for the wind. Pretty much a standstill. Normally, when we've had races here in the past, we've seen some pretty gusty winds. Somewhere, I'd say 10 or so kilometers. I think the worst we had was maybe 14 kilometers an hour wind, but that was a long while ago. Keshawn Hall in the pit lane. That's going to end his battle. Here's Rasco and Keogh, however. These two have been keeping each other from feeling all too lonely here on track. But Rasco is, I mean, he's doing sort of the same thing that Loverink did, trying to use as much of the track as he can to get away. But Keogh seems to have everything sorted out. Last lap goes in Rasco's favor, actually, by 7/100ths of a second. But 7/100ths doesn't do a whole lot when your opponent is this close, sitting in the slipstream and getting ever so closer to being able to pull out slingshot around you. And actually Keogh opting for the inside. That's a very bumpy line. You're not where you want to be, especially in the wet. We've seen, I don't know, I've seen some clips. I've seen one on Reddit before of somebody going inside line on the outside, or on the inside rather. Ben Keogh, decision making was a little bit spotty and remained so through subsequent corners. But has that scared Rasco a little bit? It hasn't. So Ben Keogh trying to pull out all the stops, but unfortunately has been thwarted. Portis and Sanchez still very close to each other. And Spencer Brown with the number 11 of Jose Flores to get around as a blue flag. Spencer Brown, 6th position. We have not really talked about him a lot, I don't think. And well, for last time out for Pro-Am, last race, did get 2nd for that classification. But other than that, we really haven't seen him at the, well, we had that first race. He did finish for 1st in the Pro-Ams. Or sorry, the 2nd race, rather. So, he is at the very least leading it again for the black-coated crew. 2nd place is Larry Lanham. You can see him all the way down there in 13th. In fact, Brown's faster than some silvers and even some pro drivers. So that should tell you that this man is a force to be reckoned with. Back down to P7, though, Sanchez. I mean, he has been in the same situation every single lap, it feels like. He's always just so close, and then something happens. He falls back, gets so close, falls back, something happens. I don't even know how to describe it. You know, it sort of a, I don't even know if it'd be the story of Sisyphus or something else, but it's just sort of an uphill battle. He has no chance of actually completing at the moment. And in the slipstream, just gets close at the worst possible times, although he may, oh, I thought for a minute he was a lot closer. I was going to say he may have something different to say, but he's going to open up a little bit of real estate on the inside. He's going to try to make it work. I thought he had the lead into the corner side by side. Portis getting a little bit elbows out there. Sanchez evasive action. And again, stuffed at the line. Everything that Portis has in that little Honda, he is going to make use of it because he does not want to lose that 7th position. Not now, not ever. 21 minutes to go, however, and it's going to seem like 21 hours for him by the time this is all said and done. Alan MacGyver, Andrew Wilson, we're very close for a minute. Surprised the move wasn't done sooner. Keshawn Hall right now. Oh, a drive-through for Barnett. That's going to be for track limits 100%. We do see one of the Porsches. I believe that is Flores. Yeah. Oh, and there's a spin there. Is that Sampati that just spun around? No, it wasn't. Oh, was that good? No, that wasn't good. Who was that? That was one of the... Oh, it was Hernandez Treister. So let's roll this one back. We're going to go in cockpit cam. Oh, he's already loose. That... A lot of... Wow, that's a lot of correction. At the worst possible spot. Gets a little bit of a tap there. So you can see... Yeah, it just... Has to just come back into it. Thankfully was able to not collect anybody else in all of that. But that is one of the worst feelings and the worst places to have to do all of that counter steering. There goes Andrew Wilson side by side with Alan MacGyver. Does get it done way before the braking zone. And finally for Wilson, a little bit of relief from him, is able to get into position number 11, but now he's got to hold on. For some, it's nothing at all, and for others, it's a monumental test that takes a lot of focus, a lot of mental fortitude. But this has been a move a long time coming. The speed for Andrew Wilson, I mean, he had a half-second advantage over Alan MacGyver for a while, so the fact I think it took this long is kind of concerning, as Andreasen right now out of the slipstream of Darren Wicks side by side down the back straight. That Ferrari sitting a long way on the inside and is slowly going to drift back onto the racing line, onto the brakes. Clips the apex beautifully. Hi-ho, silver, he's away. Darren Wicks, though, down into position 21. And Giovanni, keep in mind, position 22 at the moment, Goods up in 16th. So that pit stop definitely has cost him quite a lot. That gap is going to open up a lot more than what it was previously by the time we get to the end of this race. Brian Rasco still in a familiar situation. It's Keo behind in the slipstream at the backstretch. Rasco is going very defensive. Down here, Keo steps out. Is he able to maybe throw it around the outside? That's the big question. No. Maybe a little bit of a switcheroo. Tries to go for a straighter exit, but Rasco is going to use all that speed and momentum to stay ahead. That might carry him a little bit too far. There's Keo with the nose. Now he's alongside. Now he's starting to pull away. And Keo does an amazing job. Just uses that straighter line. It's a better exit. Keo was unfortunately... Or no, sorry, it was Rasco that went down the inside. It was Keo. My goodness. Keo did a great job. Played it perfectly. Too much speed from Rasco at the end of that back straight. That's what gave the position away. That's what made it a losing fight. But for Keo, of course, both of these guys still in the top 10, but it's going to be the 33 that desperately wants to, well, get the move done and just start getting out of town, get these laps grinded out, and carrying on with his evening. Keshawn Hall is a lot of problems there. Andreasen right behind, and if that Aston Martin continues to make error after error, well, it's going to be an easy position gain for the Argentinian driver. Of course, the Aston Martin, believe it or not, one of the good starter cars, actually, in ACC. Very planted, very easy to drive, And pretty much the baseline car, I'd say the average, if you will, for this game. Maybe there are others, let us know. But in my experience, the Aston Martin's been a really good introduction, a really good way to get yourself oriented with GT3s, and then you can go on to bigger and better things. Oh, Andreasen late on the brakes, I think. Yeah, he's lost a whole bunch of time there, so that has not done him any good. And there's Flores. I think Giovanni had gotten around him. Yeah, that lap time 4:10. So while we were looking at other battles, Flores, I believe, losing this position. Although, if that is the case, he's not quitting. He's not going to let the Audi get away. Out of the two German manufacturers, he wants Porsche to be on top. Across the line we go. And just behind them, I believe that's Thiele. It's not Thiele. Thiele's a good way back. Parity, hold on. So Parity sits as a blue flag, so he's a long way back. He was, I believe, caught up in the lap 1 melee. Because he started, I think it was 17th on the grid. So down to 25th. He didn't pit. I didn't see him pit. It's just in, ladies and gentlemen, from the cutting room floor, Parkinson losing connection in the middle of the race. That's never fun. We saw you disappear off the face of the plateau. It's unfortunate, but that's how it's going to be. Always ready for next week. Keshawn Hall, even with Andreasen making a mistake, can't actually do anything with that advantage. Slightly different lines. Andreasen actually backing out, wants to get a straighter exit. I don't know. It's actually looking like it's starting to work a little bit. Both pretty much sitting on the racing line, turn number 1. Hall is going to be able to just hang on for the time being. But, well, how much longer does this stay like it? I don't want to say it's a question of when rather than if, but the thing is, well, we've had some interesting close calls from all of these guys, honestly. It's, well, it just seems like one of those things where you get so close so often, you start backing out because of this, that, and the other thing, and then the cycle repeats, and it happens a lot between these two right now with Hall and Andreas, and they have been extremely close to each other, and then they've been very far away from each other, and then they go right back into it again, and it just, again, it's just back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, back and forth. It just gets ridiculous, doesn't it? But anyway, side by side, it is going to be Andreasen on the inside, does push the Aston Martin way out wide, and I guess we didn't have to wait long. Andreasen picks up position 19. Hall's going to just shrug his shoulders and say, you know what, fine, you can have it, I'll give it to you, just leave me alone and let me do my thing. But a position gained is a position gained. And that'll give Andreasen a shot for Rodriguez, but he's got 12.5 minutes to do so. Before the checkered flag falls. Oh, Keshawn Hall is doing something. It's just, I think that was a slight bit of packet loss. He wanted to go back. Oh, we're having problems all across the board. Everybody. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Oh, no. Oh, no, 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 no. This is bad. The server is having problems. It's not me, thankfully. That's always the worst. Not like that hasn't happened or anything. Ha ha ha. So the server's having a bit of a fit right now. Trying to throw. Yeah, everybody's bouncing all over the place. I can't really do anything about it, unfortunately. But hey, if the racing goes on, then I'm not gonna complain. Oh man, that was funny. It looks like Keshawn Hall did like a. This is gonna sound really. Some of you might not get this. He just did a bug slide. It looked amazing. It's just the coolest bug slide, which is kind of fitting with khaki going on right now. Khaki Reloaded. Shout out to everyone doing that, and Trackmania, myself included. Let the addiction flow through you. But anyways, back here, the server seems to have fixed itself. Shout outs to the server providers. You guys are awesome. Chris Good and Felipe Rodriguez now eyeing each other up. Rodriguez's last lap, a 57.25. Good at a 59.64. Very surprising. I don't know if he went off track somewhere. Maybe that lag caught him out. But at the very least, we know that this 17th position could be trading hands soon. We'll see what the lap time looks like as we cross the line. How much faster is Rodriguez compared? It's 2 seconds. So it was a 2-minute lap time for Good, a minute 59 for Rodriguez. And if that is solely from the server issue, then maybe we have to wait another lap. But Felipe Rodriguez, despite having 2 seconds over his opponent, hasn't really shown it. Hasn't really shown that he is able to hold the advantage over the inside. He loses the back end, has to save the Porsche. He does. But all of that effort gone, I would say, with a gust of wind, but the wind is standing still here in France. And he only has 10 minutes to go to get back up right behind Chris Good and try to find a way around. That is one of the worst times, I think, to have that happen. Especially so late in the race. If this was maybe the first 10 minutes, you could argue, okay, you know, you've got 50 minutes to get back behind, but 10 minutes is, well, for Rodriguez, is going to feel like the shortest possible amount of time. We'll keep an eye on the pace, though, of those two. We'll see how things pan out. Spencer Brown still sitting comfortably in 6th. Hasn't really been challenged by much of anybody. Sanchez is a long way back. He is... I don't think he's even close. He's just about 6 seconds behind. So you have Flores there and the Audi of Giovanni. Flores actually pulling away from the number 23, and Spencer Brown, you can see, just chilling in his BMW. One of the few BMWs actually on the grid. One of I want to say 2 or 3, if I'm not mistaken. 3 of them, yeah. There's Brown, Lanham, and Barnett, and it is the number 12 that sits number 1 among the 3-lettered manufacturer. Austin Carpenter still in 4th position. And that top 3's looking very familiar, of Hutchinson, Lovrink, and Clifford. If I check back on the season and we look at who has been where and what their finishing positions have been like in the race. Let's see, Hutchinson, Lovrink, and Clifford. Hutchinson, Lovrink, and Rodriguez. Hutchinson, Lovrink, and Clifford again. Hutchinson, Lovrink, Thompson. Hutchinson, Clifford, Lovrink from last time out. So yeah, it's a pretty standard top 3. But I mean, that's, in terms of the championship, rather, I think is what we should be looking at, because Lovrink leading from Clifford again. It's 96 points between the two. That's going to further Lovrink's gap, and of course Hutchinson leading this race. We'll see how long it takes him to get to a full race, or a full perfect race rather, of points. So you get 153 for having the race win, which is 150. You get 3 bonus points for fastest lap, and then not only that, depending on where you qualify, if you start at the top, you do get 5 points. If you take pole position, 4 for second, 3 for third, 2 for fourth, 1 for fifth. Hutchinson started 9th, which gave Lovrink pole position, so that will maybe delay things a little bit longer. So maximum points for anybody who's good at math, that isn't me. That's going to be 158 points total on the race weekend. So Hutchinson is only 28 points off of that, but, well, he's got some time, and I think I think we just lost Hunter Page to a drive-through, unless I'm mistaken, but I'm not seeing the number 6 anywhere. It was a very late drive-through especially, so yeah, I think, yeah, not the number 6, excuse me. No, yeah, the number 6. I don't see it. That might be retirement there, unfortunately, for Hunter Page. Not the way you want to go out, but that's how it's going to happen. Frizza and Zampati right now. They were behind the 66 of Barnett. Barnett has not had a very good race. 5 laps down, had a drive-through. I think he had a stop-go at one point as well. So he is playing blue flag. Spencer Brown with one of the Porsches there, letting him through. It's the number 11 of Flores, though. So maybe it's there. And Lanham, or not Lanham, excuse me, Barnett getting out of the way, both of Zampati and Frizza. This is where things are going to get a little bit wild. Frizza runs wide. I think it was a little bit loose there on corner exit. And I guess Barnett sliding in sympathy. But Frizza loses position 14th. Zampati more than willing to take that. Probably wouldn't even contest such a thing. But I think the BMW tripped up the 74, and that's why Zampati has 14th and why Frizza has 15th. It's just those little changes. We don't tend to think of back markers as much, either because A, we never see them, or B, we deal with them so much that it's almost second nature. But sometimes just that little bit of change compared to what you're normally used to when running your laps can just throw you off a little bit. And when that happens, well, you see what just happened. It was Zampati that took full advantage of the situation, gets around. Frizza pulls away, no problems at all. But we have just passed 5 minutes. We're at 4 minutes and 10 seconds to go here in this race. We should be seeing, I think, 3 more laps under these conditions. Let's see. Hutchinson's only 15 seconds into his lap. And if my terrible math is to be believed, then we should be having 2 more after this, plus the final lap, unless Hutchinson decides to maybe park it a little bit. But he doesn't have as big of a gap as we're used to seeing in this race. Speaking of massive gaps, though, Zampati, oh my god, is just completely gotten around Frizza. Hasn't even bid him adieu, has just decided that he is going to scoff, get past him, and never look back. He is almost a full second, maybe a little bit more now from Frizza. So Zampati, yeah, his lap times have been almost a full second quicker. So that was a matter of when. That was definitely a matter of when for the 69. But things continue to settle down. Flores, so yeah, Flores was definitely faster than Brown in that instance. So that's why he's been able to get ahead and stay ahead. Of course, I'm sure he would like to be sitting in position number 6 and having Brown sit in 7th, but unfortunately, that's not how it's going to work this time around, because that restart definitely got him. You can see the blue flags are waving, but again, some drivers will say, we'll go over comms and go, hi, cart whatever number, in this case it'd be 12, is it okay if I, cart 11, pass you? I'm faster than you, and if the drivers agree, then that faster car behind will go through, no problems asked, or no questions asked, rather. But that is, I strictly a sort of case-by-case basis. Some drivers are fine with it, some drivers aren't, but usually it's not that much of a problem. You can see the Lexus there of Edson Mike getting out of the way for these two, and we'll also have to get out of the way for Sanchez. I believe that was, yeah, that's Sanchez, just saw it. So, yeah, for some drivers, they'd be more than happy to let you through. Some drivers tell you to buzz off, take a hike, whatever phrase you choose to use. But always done respectfully, of course, in comms. Oh, and that's Brown in the pit lane. So Sanchez gains a spot. Portis will. Keogh's going to Rasco. Ooh, how far back are we going to have people gaining positions? Zampati, maybe. Brown is still coming in. So this has to be for fuel, 100%. I don't think the car is going to go up on jacks. It shouldn't. It hasn't. Unless he's barking up and retiring, but I doubt it. Oh, no, he just underfueled the car. So Spencer Brown underfuels the number 12, and from 6th position goes to 13th. Where is Zampati in all of this? Just getting onto the front straight now. So, for Spencer Brown, what was looking like a surefire 6th has just been decimated, is now running in 13th. And we are going to be on the final lap here. Hutchinson has almost a 5-second gap already over Loverink. But as the 7:26 rounds the final corner, that white flag's going to be coming out. And we will be getting towards that final lap of the race. Le tour final, if my French is correct. I'm going to be totally honest with you, my French sucks. I took it one semester in college because I thought, hey, some of my friends speak French. That'd be kind of funny. And also Trackmania's French. Ha ha ha. Worst mistake of my life. But for Hutchinson, French hasn't been much of an issue. From Canada, I don't know if he's part of the French-Canadian side of things. If he is, then, well, he's already one step ahead of the game. But, yeah, he is just put on an absolute showing like he always does, sandbagging a little bit in qualifying to give us some some action, a little bit extra action. Always appreciate that. But he is right now just getting his final lap sorted out and is going to make it to the finish line. We've had some unfortunate pit stops, some underfueling. Always important to make sure you guys have the right amount of fuel in your car. Not only on track, but in life. Hopefully you're not going to work or something and your car decides to cut out on you because you didn't feed it. But yeah, Hutchinson. Again, Jean Alesi Esports, one of the top sim racing esport organizations in the world. And this man right here is a part of it. So that is just why this Porsche has been such a pain in everyone's posterior. Because this is going to be another win for Hutchinson. If everything is to be believed, we're going to be seeing 6 in a row here for this man. I don't want to call what I think we're all thinking because I know the powers that have been bestowed upon me. But Hutchinson crosses the line and from 9th to 1st wins here in France. It's Loverink who finishes 2nd, and that top 3 deja vu every single time. It's Clifford finishing on the 3rd step of the podium. Austin Carpenter out of that final corner finds his way 4th, and Braden Thompson breaks up the pro party in the top 5 to be the only pro-am up there. So he'll be more than happy with that. Eduardo Sanchez just now getting around that final corner to complete this race. There's Jose Flores. He'll be 20th. Darren Wicks was 19th. Those guys sat behind the leader, so they'll be done with the race sooner than expected. Kenneth Portis, everything he had is good enough to get position 7th. There's Keogh in 8th. Rasco in 9th. Andrew Wilson. Where is he? There he is. For the Purple Cobras, does finish 10th. Giovanni is 21st. Alan MacGyver is finishing just outside the top 10. Larry Lanham, position number 12 for him. And then it's going to be a little bit before Spencer Brown shows up. This is my heartbreak of the day. 6th position, not enough field to get to the end. So for number 12, he finishes as number 13. Chris Frizza has finished 14th. Has he got around Zampati at some point? I think he did. But Zampati, oh, he's just having some issues. So he'll be 15th. Oh, no, he's out of fuel. Oh, no. He can't be out of fuel, can he? He's coasting to the finish line. There goes Andreasen. There goes everybody else. He's flashing the lights. He's saying, guys, I'm out of fuel. And he finishes in 18th. Oh, no, Zampati. You had just enough to get to the line, just enough to coast across it. And Brian Barnett is going to round us out here. Ladies and gentlemen, even though everything is set in stone, well, there's always just a few more surprises left at the end of the day. for us to have some fun and take a look at. Ladies and gentlemen, that is going to do it for us here tonight in France. We'll take a look at the final timing sheets. Overall, though, it's Hutchinson. Another win added on to the score sheet. It's Loverink and Clifford second and third. That top three, like I said, very, very familiar territory. Very familiar faces up there. It's going to be Carpenter fourth and Thompson's fifth. The only other driver in the top five that is not pro-rated. In the Pro-Ams, of course, it's going to be Lanham and Brown. Brown, just, you saw it. Pit stop. It's not what you want. Frizza's in third. Andreasen's fourth. Rodriguez is fifth. And then it goes Wicks, Flores, and Parity. For the amateurs, good. Finishes ahead of Giovanni. That is going to stretch the gap in the amateur class. Giovanni was ahead of Good for a while, but much like some of these other drivers, it's fuel. It's the lack of fuel, rather, that does him in. Chris Thiele is third. Edson Mike's in fourth. Barnett's in fifth. And then it's Hernandez, Treister, and Parkinson. Sort of not really getting to the end. And then for the silvers, it's going to be Thompson, Sanchez, Zampati. We saw it right at the end with the lack of fuel in fourth. And then Hunter Page, unfortunately, a very late drive-through penalty is going to draw the Canadians' white flag and end this race prematurely. Before we go, of course, ladies and gentlemen, shout-outs to Simrigs one final time for sponsoring another season of the Sprint Series out of Melbourne, Australia. These guys have got everything you need. If you're looking to upgrade or maybe get somebody something special for a birthday or anniversary or whatever's coming up, you never know. If you happen to be in Australia or New Zealand, you guys are covered. But like myself and many of the drivers here in North American Sprint and over in EU Sprint, if you're outside of that little region of the world, well, if you send them an email, I'm sure they'd be happy to set something up with you and send some goodies your way. And if you happen to be an OR Patreon member, you guys are going to be getting 5% off your in-store purchases. This hobby is not cheap by any means, even those starter wheels, a couple $100. But if you're looking to save a little bit of money in today's economy, we'll take advantage of that. But again, thank you to Simrigs for sponsoring another season of the Sprint Series. We hope to see more of them as we continue on our road as a sim racing organization. But that is going to do it for us here tonight. We're going to be back again next week. And make sure you guys have your passports ready, because we are going to be going to Japan. It's going to be a fight in the land of the rising sun at Suzuka. I am very excited for that. Hopefully Charles is able to join us again. Things got a little bit hectic scheduling wise for him, and I would like to apologize, of course, for not getting the EU broadcast out earlier today. Like I said, someone decided to fight an electrical pole, lost power, and it came back on a decent way into the race. But I'm going to try to get some highlights together for that race and show it at the start of the broadcast. I'll have to make a quick couple phone calls to certain people to try to get that sorted out. But anyways, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of myself and everybody here at the OOR, I'd like to thank you so much for stopping by. Hope you enjoyed your stay. And as always, stay safe, stay beautiful, and we'll see you next time.